I think in the beginning it probably started with that passion I just love cars in general. And kind of my first thought when I even started doing it was, if I get good enough, my goal is to like do a Ferrari or, just to be in front of some of these cars. And it actually took a long time to get my first Ferrari. And then eventually, you just stick with it, and eventually you'll come across that client that has one. If you're persistent and you just stay at your craft, it all will kind of fall into place. My name is Billy Aylward. I own Presidential Detailing in Tampa, Florida. I've always been into detailing, I guess, even since an early age. Growing up, I had, one of my first vehicles. I was always constantly washing it and waxing it, and that passion kind of just stayed with me, all the way till now. The bulk of my journey began probably when I had a black S2000, so it was around 07, 08 is probably when I was teaching myself how to polish cars. And obviously it had very soft paint and swirls and scratches all over it, and then basically had to figure out how to polish that car without really any help. I worked at like a small detail shop, more like a car wash, and there was one guy that was like allowed to hold or touch a polisher in that shop, because he was the only one that knew how to do it, apparently. So I talked him into polishing my car because I knew it had, I knew it could be improved, but I just didn't know how. And he was the guy that was supposed to be able to do it. And then once he did it, I got the car back and it had halos and all kinds of stuff going on. So I knew that wasn't right. Took to the forums, and detailing was getting really big on the forums at that time. So there was guys posting, their whole documentary of how they were detailing a car. They would post every single product they had, every machine they used, and all the processes and everything. So I found a couple of guys that I liked their style and their process, and kind of just took a list of what they were using, the smallest list I could find, because I didn't have any money really to even buy the stuff. So I actually convinced a couple of my friends to pitch in $150 each. Got $300 worth of product and got it shipped. And the deal was that I would use the products on my own car to learn how to do it. And once I figured it out, I would do their cars next. So I had the black S2000, notoriously one of the hardest paints to work with, especially at the time with the polishers and chemicals that we had at the time. It was pretty frustrating. It definitely wasn't easy. I remember taping squares on the hood of my car, which now I look back and kind of cringe because I was probably creating all kinds of different levels of clear coat on my hood. I had all these different pads and polishes, and you have different speeds and different pressures, and then just learning how to use a rotary for the first time. All of that together was just like a disaster, really. So then when I finally got to the point where I liked it, you kind of get that light bulb and you're like, okay, now I can move on to the rest of the car. Because at the point I was just focusing on little, 6-inch squares. So you're like, all right, I'm good to go. And then you'd start, expanding that work area, and then you run into a whole nother host of issues. So it's a huge roller coaster. I honestly don't know how I, stuck with it. I don't know why I did. I guess I just loved my car that much, and I wanted it to, look the best as possible, and that was the only way to get it that way. You can teach a lot of people to polish a car, but there's definitely levels to your craft. Attention to detail is like the biggest thing. So when I look at a car, I use a lot of contrast. On this yellow car, for instance, if you look closely enough, you'll start seeing little black specks or little, just smudges that stand out from the car. So when you're looking at a car, you have to look for those things that contrast with the car, because typically it's going to be a defect of some sort. Really looking at the car, like you can't just look at it on a global. You have to get real up close and personal with it. Like when you're cleaning a car, I'm usually you know, less than a foot away from whatever I'm staring at. Sometimes a car will give you cues of trouble spots. So on certain colors, you'll see a slight color change on an edge, or there's all kinds of little things, or water spots, the fallout, contamination. So yeah, there's every process or every step of the way, you got to be super detailed. In clay bar, you got to be really detailed in clay, because once you get past that, you don't want to have to be going back to that, because once you polish a car out and then you go find something later on, you got to clay it and you're going to mar it again. So, and then once you get past the decontamination part and you're into the polishing, we use specialized lighting to show all the defects. We use a lot of light. There's even tricks to that. You can, if you have it too close, it's going to flood out the panel and then it won't show as many defects. So sometimes you have to back the light away or put it at a certain angle to the car so that you can look down the line of the car instead of straight at it. You're looking at every inch of the car as you're polishing, and I look through the polish as I'm polishing it. There's tons of little nuances, even working a polisher around tight areas so that you're not hitting the backing plate off of mirrors or door handles or other body panels. If it's like an older car, you need to tape an adjacent edge so that when you're polishing one panel, it's not burning the other side, because you're sitting here looking at this one and going over the other one, and before you know it, you can burn. There's so many little things like that, it's hard to even remember them all just on the spot. It's usually, I'm so programmed to just do it as I go. I hate selling myself. I love selling what I do, but I don't like to be, I'm pretty shy. I don't like to be in front of people or crowds. So that's just part of my personality, and I'd say it probably hurt me in growth from just watching what other people can do pretty quickly. But just staying persistent and keeping with my craft and making sure it was my best result, and then luckily that's been a pretty high bar. It just all kind of has been falling into place, meeting the right customers, and then they'll introduce you to other people that they know. Like I said, it might have hurt me in some ways, but I think it helps me in other ways, because it keeps you kind of more of a humble approach, and I think at least our clients, they kind of see that and appreciate that maybe. But I've always had just the approach of just doing the best job, and then me and Ryan crossing paths, and we all kind of have that same passion. So once you figure out that you have the same passion and that you can work with each other, then it just becomes kind of almost magical, I guess, because it just kind of blossomed and took off. If you just detailed a car by yourself and you put it in your own garage and nobody ever saw it, that would get old very fast. So you got to have people to share that with, and share that pride and share the energy. At the end of the day, we're all car people, and there's something special about cars. I don't know what it is. I still love being around all these cars. We get a little bit jaded by them sometimes, but when you sit there and the car's done, you still look at it in awe, like that's a beautiful car. The opportunity to be around them when normally I wouldn't, I can't afford those cars. And I love the clients that are behind them too. They get to share their passion with us, because not a lot of people get to experience the cars that they have. And then we get to share our passion with them and make their car look, as good as possible, basically.